I have to say two things before we get to that. Last night, Charles Bramble mentioned that he and I first met over Pathfinders. I've managed to find 3 books of photographs that go back 30 years. It includes the first ever investiture of the Pathfinder Club in Milton Keynes. And I know it's the first ever one because the picture's in black and white. And that means the Pathfinders were doing photography, and we actually took the pictures, developed them and printed them ourselves. Secondly, I'm standing on the end without even a Pathfinder uniform because I'd only just joined the club. Thirdly, Charles Bramble is there without a silver hair on his head. It gets better. The Pathfinder director who came to do the investiture was Pastor Paul Tompkins. He had a moustache and hair. I've got several other years from that as well. As a second interjection, just before we get to North Runcton, I have to do the quick advertising for it. I got my message last night, and it said, "Thank you, your £5 donation to Wolverton Church helps our community to grow together in faith and understanding." And what's that? That's the SMS text giving we brought in a year ago. It's building up. I think we're trying to get up to £1,000 a month for the churches. This £5 per week campaign is all for local church funds. So it comes in. I've just received Thursday of this last week the report for December's SMS giving, and so we'll have to process that through. All of that money comes back to the church. At the conference, we pick up all of the costs, and if those in the North and NEC want to do this as well, speak to your treasurer. I can give them the information. It's very, very easy. You send one text message to set up, and they collect this on your behalf. So that's that one there. As Earl was saying, I can see down there, good. About 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, after Broomhill was sold, 35 acres of woodland and copses and meadows was purchased up about a mile outside King's Lynn. Now, for those of you that are interested in your church geography, that's just about as far north as it's possible to go without going over the border into NEC. The border goes from the Wash down to the Severn, so we are just about as far north, within a mile or so, without going over the border there. As a church, we made a bit of a mess of trying to develop it at first. I think we got over-enthusiastic, certain of our directors did. And as a result, everything came to a standstill. I knew nothing of this. And when I joined the conference, I think at the first or second executive meeting, President Emmanuel said to me, "Go and talk to Pastor Kevin Johns, who's the Pathfinder director, and get yourself up to North Runcton and see what we can do about it." So we went up there and talked to the person we bought it from and the builders who were involved and everything. They had pages of pre-planning conditions that we had to comply with before our planning ran out. Let me put it this way. On the Thursday of the week before it was to run out, the planner from Norfolk County Council in Norwich rang up the builders and said, "I'm going to put it on the website that you've now complied with it." It was that close. I think it was 3 days only we had. So this is some idea. These are pictures both from a year ago and from one with the Pathfinder's flying drone that took some pictures, and also some from this last week, where it's obviously very wet and muddy there at the moment. But this is basically what it looks like. I'll show you a map in just a moment, but the view on this slide here is looking out from the woodland where the huts of phase 2 will go, and where it's looking out there is where the main building in oak and glass, God willing, will be in about a year's time. There's our little map. You can see that I gave up art in the 3rd year at school. Phase 1 there is the bit we've started already. Phase 1A, down at the opposite corner, are a couple of Pathfinder huts that we've also put in. And the others will take place as it comes. And the nice big red building in the middle. And you notice that there's a lake there as well, which wasn't on that original picture, That's because this is now happening. Now, this was our original access road, the very first thing of the infrastructure that was put in. Without going into all the history of it, we have a problem with access through the village. We didn't pay all the fees and sign off and all the things before we started some years ago. And there are one or two people in the village that take great delight in making life difficult for us. However, this is off Google Earth, I believe. Up in the top middle of the picture, you can see various brown bits. And that's our bits of woodland on our site. And the yellow line going up there, and then across, and then to the bottom of ours, that is a new access road that the owners of the farms to the south of us came up to us one day and said, I don't know what is in the water in the village of North Runcton, but you're trying to improve facilities there, and they're giving you grief. Why don't you put a road in from our side? And they won't give them any trouble. The land agent himself is the chairman of the parish council next to North Runcton. Significance being, the bottom end of that road isn't in North Runcton, it's in Middleton. However, the parish council in North Runcton liked the idea of us having an additional alternative entrance. And they've actually put a formal letter into the planners supporting our application. So we're just waiting for the final. One of the nature people reckon there was some greater crested, what are they, newts, I think, or something around there. Nobody's managed to find any so far. But it gets very complicated. We've had to prove there's no bats in the wood and all sorts of things. This is the new road going up into the part of phase 1, and huts numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. It doesn't start with hut number 1 because we have to cut down some trees to put that one in first. As you can see, it's fairly wet in that part of the world this time of the year. There we are. That obviously is a drone picture, so Pastor Johns was there with his drone. And the third hut up, when we arrived there in the morning, had just a slab. And by the time we left in the evening, it had 4 walls and the roof beams all in place. There we are, it's the drone from even higher up. And you can see it in the left, on the top there is our old access. Nice thing about that, you see that ring of trees around there? If you go up to that part of the world and you don't have protection from the trees, and the wind comes in off the North Sea, it can freeze you no matter what you're wearing. You can see all the mud and everything there. Another example, the county council had to cancel or postpone one of their major road projects in Norfolk. And so they said, we've got 3,000 tons of hardcore for base for roads available. And our builder said, we would like to buy that. And they said, well, you can have it for £19 a ton if you want. Just go and take it away. So all of our road base has been paid for. It's all been provided for by the county council deferring one of their road schemes. Now you see what the huts, we call them huts, cabins. They're houses, really. They're wooden houses. They're 800 square feet each. On a concrete foundation, block and beam floor. They're all going to have underfloor heating. They've all got double glazed windows and doors with high-spec glass, made in a factory in Latvia, as it happens. I saw the container, first one arrive in. And they sell them to us at a price that we can't even buy the materials here. Cabin numbers 2 to 5, they're all ready for roofing now. You may wonder about the significance of sitting so high up off the ground. Apparently this is to stop it flooding there. This is halfway up the hill, so we haven't quite worked out whether this is Noah's Flood Part 2 or what. Okay, so from the woodland, where we took the first picture, if we go back and turn to a different angle there, you can see it was misty on Monday as well, as damp. Here's one of our new road bases going in towards the woodlands there. You can see they've been thinning out the trees. So all the softwood trees we thin out get sold for firewood or whatever. And where we thin out oak trees or whatever, then we remill that timber and use it on site. So it's far too valuable to let it go out. And when we go in among the trees, you can't dig out a road base there. So they have this very whizzy geotex material, almost like an egg box type thing. And they fill all that up with shale, and then we put our road base on top of that. And apparently the roots then aren't damaged. Takes a bit longer to put in though. Now, a drone angle from the bit where I showed you at the beginning, only this time there's a lake there now. There used to be a pond in the bushes. The planning said we had to have all this underground drainage. And for compliance, the builders put some of that in. It was useless. This part of the world, you've got to have proper drainage at every different level because it's very, very close to sea level there. So they extended the pond into a full-size lake there. On the edge of all the woods, there are big drainage ditches. We have to put, you can just see will it let me? No, it won't. You can just see a bridge at the left-hand side of the screen there. Oh, and the main timbers for the bridges. This is 150-year-old oak. Came from King's Lynn Harbour. Our builders went up there and bought 500 tons of it for a few pounds a ton. So we're utilising it all to make bridges on the site there. There you are. We've got a weir at the bottom of the lake, and we can adjust the height of the lake. And that's all water draining off the site. So it's all flowing water, it's all fresh. There are some carp in the lake there already. I believe they're missing from the managing director's pond at his house. -1, a heron came and helped himself to one of our carp. There you are, you get an idea of the shape of the lake there. And at the bottom end, where it comes out here now, we've now got roads going in. I should have somewhere. Well, that was obviously the day I went there when the wind wasn't blowing. It's about as likely as going down to Chapelporth and the wind doesn't blow. Although that happened on the day I met the planner down there. Can I interrupt? And I don't know whether you all realise, you know that we want to replace those in the south and other caravans with wooden cabins. And we're about 25 years behind NEC in this, I think. January last month, we got our planning permission. So this is the last year our campus will have to be in those caravans that, but for David Clemo patching on patches, they wouldn't exist anymore. Okay, so there's a new access road going in there. This was going in this week, in fact. Lake on the right. On the left, that's all being seeded up with wildflowers. There'll be a wildflower meadow, so that later in the summer, pathfinders can camp on that as well. Downstream from the lake, you get an idea here now. It's not as flat as it looks. So we've got these same 150-year-old oak timbers there providing weirs to give a bit of interest to the water coming down there beside the Pathfinder camping fields. Now, there's a great one from the drone. This is Pathfinder Camping Field 1 down at the bottom. 2 huts at the bottom there going in so that we can provide showers and toilets and various things for the campers. You notice the strange design in the field next to the little lake that's forming there. That's a fire pit in the middle. And it's been seeded so it'll grass over, and there'll be wooden seats around there, manufactured from some of the oaks that we've taken down in the woodland. So the pathfinders have their campfires down there. You need that, don't you? I've got pictures of a camp that we ran in Area 7 of SEC. And it's a few years ago because our Pathfinder director then was a ginger in shorts. Now, is he not now our TED stewardship director? Yeah, it was part of David Neal as a young man. Okay, so this must be this last week. And you see we've actually got tiles on the roof now of the first of the Pathfinder cabins. So there's the 2 down there. There you go. So that's what we're calling the cabins. So that's 40 feet long. They're quite a decent size. It's got all the windows in now and everything. And up behind the very bottom there, there's a path that goes up. The Phase 4 cabins obviously be the very last ones to go in. And I suspect they're a little bit separate there. And when members and their families want to come as a small group, eventually, that's where they can go. We hadn't mentioned that the overall thing is we have a dual use for the site. You've seen all the Pathfinder huts, and there's 2 fields for them to camp in there. But we're also looking to use this for retreats. I don't know about NEC. I know how much SEC members spend on these very nice hotels every year. I know there's 6 zeros after the first number. I know that when we can take up to 200 or 300 people in a retreat, and it's going to be in at least 2 years' time to be reasonable. When we can do that in North Runcton, the money we'll use to run the site. However, we've got quite a high standard to compete with, haven't we? Accommodation, food, everything. So we know what it is. We've got Dr. Chidi, though. Dr. Chidi is advising me on what the food is going to be, so that'll give you some idea how healthy it's going to be when we go to North Runcton. That gives you some idea of what we have in plans for that, and I hope that encourages you a little bit if anybody says to you, whatever happened to the money we got from selling Broom Hill? Or Theodore McCleary School as well. That's what's paying for the construction of this at the moment. Youth projects, we've kept the money within the youth department, as it were, but this will benefit the whole of the conference here. And given that it's actually closer to Nottingham than it is to Watford, it may well be that we see quite a few NEC members joining us there for various events in the future. We hope so anyway, because it's a bit of an arbitrary line, and we're all here today as part of BUC anyway. So hopefully in a year or two's time, we might even have a Treasurers' Conference there. And in that case, we'll be able to entertain all of our team, as it were. I mean, last night we introduced our teams up here. Truth is, this is our team. We can't do it on our own. Without the help of our local treasurers, we would not be able to comply with all the regulations or know what's going on. So we do appreciate the work that you all do. And I hope you're enjoying this weekend. Thank you.